What's up, friends? Welcome to the 2-6 podcast with Luke and Adrian. On this podcast, we focus on Web3, business, and achieving your personal potential. On today's episode, we're diving deep into the world of gratitude, exploring how this seemingly simple attitude can dramatically shift your perspective and open up new paths in both your personal and professional life. We'll unpack real-life stories and share some practical, down-to-earth tips that'll show you the true power of saying thanks and how it can be a real game changer for you. With that all said, let's get to it.
Welcome, listeners, to the 2-6 podcast with Adrian and Luke. If you guys have been listening for a while, we talk about Web3, business, and achieving your personal potential. Today, we are actually talking about gratitude. We got Thanksgiving right around the corner, so we thought it would be a great time to talk about it. Luke, welcome. Glad you could be here again as our co-host. Doing good, man. I'm excited, dude. I'm excited to talk about gratitude.
Absolutely.
So tell me, Luke.
Lots to be thankful for.
Absolutely, man. There's always things to be thankful for. So, Luke, let's get started, man. Tell me what gratitude means to you.
Yeah, so I think that I mean, obviously, a lot of times when we think about gratitude, like we think about Thanksgiving. So, for listeners that are not in the U.S., so the United States celebrates Thanksgiving around this time of year. But one of the things that we think about is thanking others and that kind of thing. But I also kind of think about gratitude as being something that is kind of a state of mind. So not necessarily like thanking others for things that they do that you appreciate is always good and that kind of thing. But it's just, to me, I think it's about like looking at what we have and appreciating those things. How about you, bro?
Absolutely, man. To me, I think I'm a pretty big believer in keeping a positive mentality, positive attitude, I should say. Same thing, right? It's kind of a mental. Yeah. It's a mental thing. It's mental health. I think it's one thing that makes people smile, right? I'm all about having a good time, making sure people are enjoying even being around me or want to be around me, right? Being negative doesn't help anybody, and just truly just trying to keep that positive mindset throughout the day, throughout the week, the month, truly just helps me out. It helps the people around me. So, gratitude is a big part of that for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, because I think it's easy to get caught up in like some of the things that are maybe not so good that happen in a given day, right? So like if like someone cuts you off or that kind of thing, but just if on your commute to work or something like that, but you just kind of can think about like, hey, like I have a nice car, I'm able to get to a job that provides for my family and those kinds of things. So the more you can kind of reflect on like, okay, there's things that happen that are not ideal in life, but the more you can appreciate those other things, I think the better mindset you're in, and just the better you are to be around.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I totally agree. I mean, it's just truly just being thankful for what you have. I think is probably one of the biggest items. It can always be worse. And to be thankful for what we have, for the people that are around us, I think those things are definitely key, right? So, Luke, what are some of the things that you do in your daily life that help you with starting off with gratitude and kind of keeping that positive mindset?
Yeah, so I think one of the big things that I really have started to do. So there's actually another podcaster, Michael Chernow, that I've been listening to for a good while now. So he has a podcast called Creatures of Habit podcast. I would definitely recommend checking that out. But what he talks about a lot is kind of forming good habits that are good for both your physical health, but also your mental health and that kind of thing. And so one of the things that he recommends, he actually has a journal that you can use to kind of start your day, and you kind of write out different things on there. So you write a lot of different things. Sometimes you're just kind of writing what's on your mind. But one of the big things that you do is write out at least 3 things that you're thankful for. And they can be small things. Like it can be like, I'm really thankful that I have this awesome new water bottle that I like to use, and it keeps me hydrated. It reminds me that I support, my favorite sports team, Austin FC, and it's just a good thing. It can just be something that you like. It can be something as small as that, or it can be something bigger, like, I appreciate, the caring family that I have. Yeah, I appreciate having a roof over my head. Whatever that might mean to you, you just kind of recognize those things. And so I think it can seem like a small thing, and like maybe it's something that you do that every day for a few months, a year, so on. Like, you're going to be duplicating some things. You don't have to pressure yourself to come up with a new thing every day. But I think that it really can just help to recognize that, hey, like, no matter what might get me down today, there's good things in my life and good things that I appreciate, even if they're small things. I think that's probably one of the big ones that I do.
Nice, man. Is there something that you do daily to kind of keep that same mindset going,
Yeah.
other
So
than
so
the
I think
podcast?
so I listened to the podcast, but kind of the takeaway from, like, when I listened to the podcast was kind of having that journaling behavior where, like, get up in
Yeah.
the morning and, like, if you're really interested, I would definitely check out Michael Chernow's content. He has some really good stuff there, but he actually has like a whole series of things that he does. Like, mine is a little bit more of a simplified version. I think one of the key things is making it like fit your life, and so I don't necessarily have as much time in the morning to do some of the things, but, I'll get up, I'll do a little bit of a meditation, I'll, write out some of the things that I'm thankful for, kind of think through, what I want to get accomplished today, do a little bit of a reflection on, how did yesterday go? Are there some things that I did well yesterday that I want to give myself a pat on the back for? There's some things that I could have done a little better. Those kinds of things is one of the big parts of the routine. And you can kind of make it your own. Like, there's, like, I do mine like kind of with the lights dim and just kind of a peaceful time in the morning, and that's really what kind of works for me. And then probably throughout the day, I think that, just it's harder, right? Because if, like, a habit, once you get in the groove of it, it's easier to keep that. But throughout the day, when, like, stuff's maybe not going so well, it does take a little bit more effort, I would say, to kind of, pause and be like, okay, like, something bad just happened. I still have a whole lot to be thankful for, and I'm gonna, work through whatever the bad thing is, but also recognize that there's a lot of other good things going on. So that's
Yeah.
probably what I do.
Yeah, I like that meditation, man. That's probably one thing that I probably don't do enough of. I take more of a I mean, different words, but affirmation journal. Being thankful, pretty much just jotting down things that I'm grateful for. Also writing up some of my goals, what I'm looking at doing for the year. It always kind of reminds me of like The Simpsons when Bart's writing on the chalkboard,
Yeah.
where he's writing it down consistently. That he won't do a certain. I don't know. God, I think he's always writing something different. I think that's what makes that part so cool in the
Every
very
single
beginning.
episode, he writes a new thing.
Yeah.
It's never
So I
been the
mean, it's
same
kind
thing
of
twice.
it's right. I think that's one of the cool things that I like doing in the morning is something simple, because it doesn't take a whole lot of time, and I like to jot it down like 25 times, and there might be three things. I'll do one like what I'm thankful for. The second one will be, where I want myself to be for the year, and then also something that I'm striving for. Right? It might be something physical, it might just be something mental or health or whatever it may be. But I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I do. It takes me probably about 20, I'd say about 15, 20 minutes, just because I'm a slow writer. And then, of course, if I run out of time to do it, um, I'll do it. I'll do it in the bathroom. I'll do it in the shower because that's when all great things happen. And it's I guess it's one of those things where you just don't want to skip on it, right? So it's one way to keep yourself kind of focused, starting your day on a positive note, and remembering the things that you're thankful for and what you're striving for. So I don't know, man. It's huge for me for sure.
Yeah,
I think it does a huge things across the board in terms of mindset.
absolutely. Yeah, and I think one of the things too, like obviously, I think in general, people kind of have a sense that, being grateful is good for you with your mindset and that kind of thing. But it's something that's been, like, scientifically proven too. So, like, there's
Yeah.
been studies out there that show all the different things that it does for you to just take that moment and show some gratitude, whether it's showing it to somebody else or just, like, making a mental note of the gratitude that you have to yourself. Like, you don't have to write it down. You can just think about these things. And it's, like, a couple of things that it's been, some different studies have shown, and we'll link them in the show notes just so that folks have a chance to kind of look into it a little more detail. So definitely, like, you don't need to take our word for it. You can, there's research that backs it and that kind of thing. But one of them is, improved sleep and immunity. is one of the big ones. So just kind of that peace that you have in your mind of that kind of thing just helps you to be more at ease when you're going to sleep, and it even helps you physiologically. It helps with your immune system, that kind of thing, because your body has a less stress that it's dealing with that allows you to do that. So I think that's one of the big ones. Reduced anxiety and depression is another big one, and I think that one makes a lot of sense because the more you're thinking of good things and thinking positively, from the depression side of things, it really kind of helps to combat that. And then also, anxiety and stuff. So I think it's those are a couple of the big things there. Another big one that we've kind of talked about a little bit is like relationships with people, right? So if
Yeah.
you think about like people that, you interact with, if you think of people that that have kind of a express gratitude and are thankful for some of the like little things that happen in their life, they're just more pleasant people to be around. And so the more that we can all take that internally, the more that we're that person for them.
Yeah, no, 100%, dude. And are there any things that you do business wise, at the office with coworkers, with just in general? Is there anything else that you do besides like the meditation?
Yeah. So I mean,
Like
at
more
work,
in
I think there's a couple of different things. I think sometimes, like if I'm talking about like interactions with my coworkers and those kinds of things, I think it's remembering to recognize things based on where the person is. Because I think one of the things that can sometimes happen to people is you start to hold everybody to whatever standard you're at. And so, like, I've been doing, working for the company I work for 23 years, and I'm pretty good at my job. Obviously, still have places where I could do better. But if I were to treat everybody that works with me to like, why are you not doing it as good as me? Or not recognizing them unless they achieve some like really, really high standard, then that would be pretty demoralizing to some of those folks. So I think part of it is recognizing kind of where they are in their either development, their skill set, that kind of thing, and knowing that sometimes what they did was a big deal for their current level and being able to recognize that and that kind of thing. So I think about similarly, like if I think about like running, right? So if you're like into running for a long time, maybe you're in a running group and like your goal is to qualify for the Boston Marathon and maybe you're pretty close to achieving that goal, maybe you already did, you still have to be able to realize that that brand new runner that just completed their first mile that they've ever completed in their life, that's a big achievement for them. And so it's realizing that, hey, I'm not appreciating them for what my standard is. I'm appreciating them for their standard. And I think it's that same kind of thing. So like if you have it like a newer employee or something like that, recognizing that like, hey, this is way better than where you've been before. Great job on that improvement. So just letting people know that you appreciate them, I think is big.
Yeah, I think you're really good at that, Luke. I think you're really good at actually keeping a positive compliment. And I like what you said where, it's not for what you would expect out of yourself, but actually expecting, I don't know, how did you word it? You always have good you always have good ways of wording the
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like not it's not measuring them against yourself. It's measuring them and appreciating them based on whatever level that they are, their skill set that they are, and that kind of thing. I think is
yeah.
probably the big thing that you're looking to do because whatever like everybody is like I think I'm stealing this quote from Ted Lasso. Like every person is a different person, and I'm sure they stole it from somewhere else too. But and you got to kind of just look at that person as you know as an individual, and like everybody has different challenges, everyone has different skills, and so we shouldn't hold back our gratitude because we don't recognize what this whatever they did meant to them.
Right. No, that's really good, man. I think, for me, it's more of a different type of structure of gratitude to where, I mean, I'm not dealing with, coaching or dealing with a whole lot of other staff. To me, it's more of, client based. And really just kind of showing the gratitude of them being my clients, them giving me referrals, or truly just communicating with me. I think one of the things that Stacy and I like to do is we like to send out thank you cards, just randomly. It's one of those. It's kind of awkward, but when you start to really start to think about somebody, sometimes there's a reason for it, and sometimes it's that person maybe thinking about you, or something. I mean, it's hard. I mean, there are no scientific facts on uh, telepathy, but I mean, I'm truly a believer that sometimes when you're thinking about somebody, it's either they're thinking about you for whatever reason, or it's just something that's just popping up. And sometimes even just making a phone call or sending a text message. But truly, what we like to do is actually go into the old school um, method of just sending them out a personal thank you card in the mail. Nothing, doesn't have to be anything outlandish or, a greeting card or a thank you card that's professionally made, but just simply just handwritten thank you card in the mail. And for us, it's just, not like we're always looking for business. It's truly not always about selling. It's more of just staying in touch. And yes, we can do that with social media and Facebook relatively easy, but sometimes having that old school touch of, wow, they really just took the time and effort just to send me a thank you card. And it could be something, hey, you were on my mind today. Just wanted to say thank you for being such great people. I was thinking about the time when we were out and about and talking about XYZ. And just something very short, concise, and man, I mean, it takes literally no time. It takes 5 minutes plus a postage stamp. And,
Yeah.
In terms of the sales part of the things, I mean, it's amazing how much people remember the thank you cards the next time you think about them. One of the biggest things, of course, is we send out a Christmas calendar with a Christmas card, and even just sending them that Christmas card, which is our annual letter with our calendar, dude. It's just like people just want to be remembered, and it's nice just to be, and we kind of go more. It's not as personal as the thank you cards, but it's truly just a way of just, hey, just wanted to kind of give you an update. You guys are important to us. We appreciate you. That's why we're sending out this letter. And it's huge in terms of, on our end, in terms of the sales, because we're not in the sales business. We're like in the people business. And a lot of our clients are truly not like just clients, but they're friends. And they became great acquaintances over the years. And, it's just keeping those relationships because you can't absolutely touch base with everybody all at once. So just those random notes of kindness or gratitude is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes sending like thanking someone for who they are or like what they mean to you and that kind of thing at a time where they don't expect it sometimes tends to mean a little bit more, right? So if it's
Yeah.
just like if I tell you like I appreciate you on Thanksgiving Day, that might mean something different than if I just like call you up one day and just tell you, "Hey bro, I really appreciate, everything that you do for me, kind of listen when I'm going through challenges, help me with some, whatever." And like that would mean something different if I just called you and told you that on, you know, January 7th or something, for like no reason than other than I just appreciate you.
Yeah. No,
So
absolutely, man. No, those are always cool. And actually, where I got a lot of that from was it's called Ninja Selling by Larry Kendall. We had a 3 day training with the folks out there in Fort Collins, and it's truly like one of those things to where it's not always about selling. It's about trying to solve problems, right? So part of that whole little installation was about doing gratitude, doing exactly this is truly where I got it from, was from that installation. And I have to say, man, it has made a huge difference in my life, in my mindset, in my personal life, of just being more thankful and writing it down, doing the affirmations, sending out the thank you cards. It is definitely one of those things, along with like the 7 habits of highly effective people, right? I mean, they didn't really talk a whole lot about gratitude, but they did talk about mindset. But the 7 habits is absolutely huge, probably more life based to kind of help you be a better person and to create some great habits. So doing it regularly, doing it and making it an actual habit, I think is probably one of the biggest things that makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
And I
think I
like
got
what
the
you said
seven habits
about
from you. You're the
the
one that
book. Yeah.
first told me. Yeah, you're the one that told me about seven habits. I listened to that doggone thing 3 times. The first 3 chapters, I think I'd listened 5 times first. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Still working on it.
Such a good book. I'm a big fan of pretty much everything Stephen Covey's put out. So I think I don't think he's with us anymore, but I did have a chance to get to see him in person when he was doing a conference, and I thought that was great. So, listeners, if you haven't looked into anything Stephen Covey or Franklin Covey related, they do produce a lot of really good content around that, and I think that's really what this is about, right? It's being not necessarily just doing it like as a means to an end kind of thing, but it's just being a good person is one of the things that,
Yeah.
like, I know that, like, I personally strive for, like, I know you do too, where, we're looking to find ways to genuinely be that person. So, like, Christmas is coming up, people are going to be giving gifts and that kind of thing. And one of the things that I'll always remember is my grandpa, who, like, you could give him a pack of socks, and he was so genuinely grateful that he got a pack of socks. And if you ever go and look in his sock drawer, he didn't need any more socks. He had so many socks. But one of the things that I think that he did is he grew up with not a lot of money. Like, he grew up at a time where he had to go and sell newspapers. And this is back in the days when people would be standing on a corner selling newspaper, like the extra read all about it kind of thing. And he had to. And if he didn't come home with a certain amount of money, like, his family counted on that money. And it's not that his parents didn't work. Like, they just needed enough money that all the kids that were old enough had to contribute to that. And as a result, like, they didn't have a lot of stuff. So he didn't have a lot of socks. So I think that I never specifically talked to him about, like, how he came about that, but I think it's about remembering that, hey, like, it's a blessing to have socks, like, because there was a time where he didn't have them, and I think it's
Yeah.
a lot of the same kind of thing. It's just reminding yourself that sometimes we get so caught up in, like, what we want or what our goals are, those kinds of things, that we don't stop and appreciate, what is it that we have that maybe at one time we didn't have. Maybe it's something that we're lucky to have, because not everyone can have that kind of thing. I think is kind of a big deal. The other example that I'd have for that is, and this is one that I always try to remind myself of, and I don't do as good of a job as I could. So it's one of the things that I could work on. So think about a time when you've had a really, really bad cold. All you want in the world is to feel better again, right? And so listeners, if you're listening right now and you don't have a cold right now, think about this. Like, that last time you had the flu, or maybe something worse than that, and you were just completely miserable, all you ever wanted was to get better, and you're like, oh my gosh, if I could get better, I would just be so happy. And then you do get better, and then for about a day or two, you appreciate your health. And then for the next 6 months until you get cold again, you never once think about how lucky you are to have your health. And so it's one of those things that you just got to kind of remind yourself of these things. It's an active process of, like, hey, like, I'm lucky to have my health right now. I don't have a cold. I don't have a headache. I feel great. Um, that's probably the majority of the days, but it just takes that reminder.
No, that's good, man. I like those stories, Luke. So tell me this, Luke. This is probably one of the biggest things. How do you get yourself when you're not feeling good or you have a bad day? I mean, obviously we all have them. How do you get yourself back into that positive attitude? I know we're talking about gratitude, but it's all kind of interlinked in itself. But how do you get yourself flipped around your mental state?
Yeah, it's a good question. So actually, I have to give credit to my first boss in my first sales job that I ever had. His name was John Oberg. Listeners, for those that might not know, I used to sell Cutco knives when I was in college. So door to door knife sales was my job. And one of the things that is kind of part of that job is you have to it's all cold calling. Like it's cold calling and it's referrals. So you start with a few people you know, they connect you with other people, and you keep going and going. And the further along you get, like you're starting to call people that you never met before. And sometimes you're going to have that call not go very well, or maybe you actually do get the appointment, you don't get the sale, and it doesn't work out so well. And what John said was, allow yourself 5 minutes of negative thought and then move on. It's not saying never have a negative thought, because some people can do that, but it's pretty hard. But if you can think about something that's maybe not so good for a little while and be like, you know what, 5 minutes is up. It's time to start thinking about what to do next. Is it, try again at the thing that didn't work out? Is it move on to another topic? Is it something else? But I think it's just kind of having that mindset of, we're at a point where like thinking about this or dwelling over it or being frustrated with this is not going to get me any further along or better. It's just time to move on to the next thing.
Dude, 100%, man. I think that's been one of the biggest things is obviously I do more sales for anybody to know what my realtor Adrian thing is all about. But you get so much denial, and denial is such a big thing to not take personal, and it's a challenge. And truly, I can't say, yeah, I'm good at what I can say I'm I can easily say I'm good at what I'm good at. I'm good at what I do, but it's a when you lose out on a listing appointment or a sale, it is truly it can easily eat away at you and your confidence and what you do daily. Um, and I think, and I have to agree with your Cutco bot, your manager. You got to forget about it, right? I mean, I think that's one of the biggest things is, again, it's a positive mindset, and it's so easy to let it consume you that the easiest way that I usually, man, I play music, and I'm not a singer, and you don't want to hear me sing, but I will sing a song like Jerry Maguire, Free Falling, and it is amazing how much of a difference it makes to me just singing outlandishly something stupid like that. But dude, it's amazing. It's like, all right, there you go. I dwelled on it for 5 minutes. It's time to move on. Don't talk about it. Don't discuss it. Like, just do some self-reflection. And, if you can get some feedback, that's always great too. But truly, man, it's like, for me, it's like, man, all right, that sucked. So let's move on. I didn't injure myself. I still got my health. As Gary Vee would say, I didn't get shot in the face. My family members didn't get shot in the face. It's actually a good day. So, push on and keep plugging away, right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yeah, it's all about that perspective, right? So it's
yeah.
thinking about let's look to that point. Like, so something frustrating happens. Like, those of us that drive, not everyone lives in a place where you need to drive, but if you drive, at some point you're going to have somebody do something annoying while you drive. And it's really easy to kind of get sucked into road rage and like yelling at them. I mean, that's something that people do, is get mad. Or you could also look and say like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I didn't get in an accident. My car is fine. I'm fine. My passengers in the car are fine. Good. I'm happy because I didn't get in a wreck. But it's kind of a path, right? You can choose which way to
Yeah.
go. And if you use that perspective of like, let's look at what's good about this, and that's that we're safe. It's just a different way of living. And it just really will kind of change the way that, your day goes. Like your day can feel a whole lot better.
Yeah. And I think that's where it starts off with gratitude, right? Even in the beginning, and starting your day with gratitude, I think sets your path for the rest of the day.
Yep.
And no matter what gets thrown at you, and you can still have a shitty day at the end of the day, but if you started off positively, I think, it's starting off that way, you can easily get back on track as long as you're in that habit of doing it every day, or again, I prefer mornings because it goes on, man. A lot of battles throughout the day, like getting jabbed in the face constantly. Like, man, I got beat up today. I don't know how
Right.
good this is, but like truly just smiling, right? Smiling and being thankful, man. I know a lot of people say, "Ah, you're too damn happy," and I've got some people that can be a little bit negative, in I'm sure we all do in our lives, but it's like truly just shrugging it off and being thankful, right? Because it could always be worse, is my take. It can always be worse. I could be totally homeless and on the streets with no food, and that would absolutely suck. Or as Gary Vee would say, getting shot in the face. I'm doing all right. It's not as bad as today.
Sure.
So, Luke, is there anything else you'd like to add before we chime off?
Yeah, so I think so you were talking about the morning habits and morning routines and stuff, and I think one of the things that folks can do is like, okay, maybe you're on like a good run of like I'm doing this all the time, and then life gets in the way. Stuff happens. Maybe you had to get up extra early to do something, and then you didn't do your morning gratitude routine, and like you'd like to do it in the morning, so you don't want to do it in the evening now, or a few days go by and you haven't done it, and then you haven't, it's just gone. So I think one of the things that I would say is just if that does happen, like there's nothing wrong with just starting again. So like there's a great book that I'm sure I probably have talked about before, but definitely recommend checking out. It's called Atomic Habits by James Clear. And one of the things that they talk about is just kind of creating those environments where you can have the right cues to do the habits and you build these routines around them. But one of the big takeaways I would say is that it's just all it takes is getting a little bit better each day, and that ultimately is going to get you where you want. So that the stat is that if you just get 1% better each day in the span of an entire year, you're going to be 37 times as good as you are now, which is kind of mind blowing to hear. So it's like, okay, it seems like it's just a tiny little step. And so it's like, sure, you had a little setback, you fell out of your routine, you weren't, thinking about the things that you should be grateful for in life, that kind of thing. You just get a little bit better all the time. And like, as you go throughout your day, like the more you can do that, you can start to pause and think about, like what are some of the good things that happened today? And maybe you have a little alarm on your phone or something, and you just kind of think about like what's one thing that I'm grateful for. And that's work for some people, won't work for everybody. But I think just the more we can kind of think about those things and kind of build practices to help us do that, whether it's meditation, whether it's journaling, whether it's just thinking to yourself about this while you're going for a walk, going for a drive, whatever that is, I think that's really how you make that something that's
Absolutely.
a part of
Get
who you
back on the
are.
horse and start doing it again. I know I found myself stopping and getting back on and doing it again. It's sometimes good to have that person reminding you to also do it. That also helps if you can't push yourself enough. It's nice to have somebody there to kind of support each other in terms of doing those routines, right? I mean, I'm gonna start pushing you again, Luke, because I need you to push me. But no, I would truly, for our listeners,
There
I
you
would
go.
truly encourage you, and I would challenge you to just try it. Try it for 30 days, and see what it does to your life, and let us know about it. I mean, I know we're talking about it, and it's easier said than done sometimes. But truly, when we have some success stories, I think it really helps. So, trying it, I would challenge you to do it for 30 days. Let us know some results in the comments or in our chat. Just letting us know kind of pushes us, I think, also to keep doing these things, to kind of help. It helps us, but it also, we're here to help everybody else out as well.
Absolutely. And I would say too, like if there's even if there's something like we'd love to hear the things that you do that kind of help you practice gratitude. But one of the things that the podcast is about is, achieving your
Absolutely.
personal potential as a whole. So if there's anything that you're doing that you think would benefit other listeners to hear about, we'd love for you to add that to the comments, whether it's in Spotify has a comment section, YouTube does as well. If you're watching this on X/Twitter, would love that there. And if you're up for that, we'd be happy to read it on a future episode and kind of share just some of the things that are working for you there, because we do, we want all the different ways to help you all as the listeners to kind of learn
Yeah.
from us, but also from each other. Well, so listeners, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up there. But before we do close, do want to express from me and Adrian both our appreciation for you for listening to our podcast. We are on episode number 13, and really appreciate y'all investing the time in listening to the podcast. Hopefully we're helping you to learn some things or kind of think of things a little bit differently. We couldn't do it without y'all. And Adrian, I have to also recognize you as well. Could not do it without you as my co-host. So really appreciate all that you do to help make this
Absolutely,
podcast
man. Thanks
great.
for being so
So I
organized.
appreciate you there as well, bro.
Because it helps.
Absolutely. All right, listeners. Well, thanks so much for listening today. As we mentioned, if today's your first time listening to the podcast, please consider subscribing, liking, and adding to the comments. And
Smash the
we
button.
will
Smash
chat
the
with y'all
button.
again soon. So
2-6.
thanks so much, everybody.